In June of 2004, longtime Las Vegas residents Benoit and Cindy Bordeaux realized a dream come true when they purchased a home at 4080 West Pyle Avenue. In the early 2000s, Las Vegas was in a building boom, plenty of construction all over town. Knowing this, Benoit went to the staff at the Clark County Comprehensive Planning Commission to talk about this new property. The staff showed Benoit a map. On the map, he was able to see that his house was zoned in an area called RNP. Being new to all this, the staff explained to Benoit that RNP stood for Rural Neighborhood Preservation. Basically, this was an area for horse owners and having horse property. The idea is that you're not going to have a giant apartment building next door, or you're going to have 6 and 8 houses on an acre right across the street from you. Hearing this news, Benoit and Cindy proceeded with the purchase of their home. Three months later, the Bordeaux were very surprised to receive in the mail a notification. The notification was from the Clark County Planning Commission. It was an invitation to attend an open house for the land use zoning master plan for the Enterprise Township. The Bordeaux and many of their neighbors attended this open house. The staff unveiled its new master plan for this area. The map showed many changes. Basically, what was RNP was now going to be zoned with many different classifications of zoning. In this Section 30 map, you can see all the multicolors in it. All of those different colors represent different zonings in that area. This has come to be known as spot zoning. At this open house, the Bordeaux and their neighbors let the staff know they were against all of these changes. At the open house, the staff provided the Bordeaux and their neighbors with comment forms. They all filled them out, and they clearly were all against these changes and said so in print. After this open house, the Bordeaux and their neighbors never received any other information or notifications regarding these issues. In the spring of 2005, while going online, Benoit discovered that his property was no longer zoned RNP, it was now zoned RL. From 2005 until 2009, the Bordeaux sent multiple letters to the commissioners requesting their property be changed from RL back to the original RNP zoning. In September of 2009, the county commissioners had meetings regarding the land use zoning master plan. At this time, the requests made by the Bordeaux and their neighbors were completely ignored. Here is a clip of noted Las Vegas attorney Chris Kempfer addressing the Clark County commissioners.
The master plan designation is based on both legal and practical considerations. From a legal standpoint, it should always raise questions when the master plan is changed on private property without the consent of the landowner. And candidly, that's a sword that cuts both ways. I would not want to be living in an RMP and have somebody come in who has property in that RMP and suggest that the whole RMP should be changed because they want to do something greater than what the RMP would allow. So you have to be careful. There's a philosophical kind of feeling to the idea that you could have purchased property with a certain expectation as to a master plan designation, and then have that master plan be changed without your consent.
Mr. Kempfer and his firm specialize in land use and zoning in Clark County. Here is a clip of Walter Carnes addressing the Clark County Commissioners in September 2009. Mr. Carnes is employed by Clark County as one of its comprehensive planners.
A more manageable approach. We've dealt with over 61,000 different property owners who own more than 81,000 parcels. And those property owners have all been notified of the open houses and of these public hearings. We have 325 requests for changes involving 3,730 parcels. And with that, we would like to begin with the first map, map 1.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Yes, sir.
Well, we're all still in a good mood. I want to thank
In this next clip, you will see the properties in Section 30 in 2009 were mainly owned by Clark County Aviation and the BLM. The Clark County Aviation land was deed restricted. This basically meant you could not build any homes on it. At this point of the meeting, Mr. Carnes is referring to Section 30, Map 14.
Okay. Map 14 has the following 11 items. Change 192 is residential suburban to residential suburban.
This is the area the Bordeaux's home is in. At this point, Mr. Carnes is referring to all the changes in Section 30.
High, OUC,
Most of the changes being referred to here are to Clark County Aviation land and BLM land.
is OUC to BDOP. Change 200 is from residential suburban to residential suburban. Change 201 is residential urban center to BDOP. 202 is ROUC and commercial general to commercial general. Change 204 is MVP to residential suburban. Change 205 is residential suburban to residential medium. Change 206 is residential medium to residential suburban. And change 255 is residential medium to residential high. Those are the 11 items for map 14.
Is there anyone that wants to take any of those separately? Run. No, I'm kidding.
The Bordeaux's and their neighbors were never notified of this meeting.
Item 202, please.
Okay, you don't want 203?
I believe 203 is being heard as well.
Oh, is it? I'm sorry. I was just watching out for you.
I appreciate it.
In the next few clips, you'll see that some of the commissioners appear to be confused. We have edited these clips down to the highlights. These meetings can be viewed in their entirety online. This is Enterprise Town Board Chairman David Chestnut addressing the commissioners. He's commenting on his concern for the residents.
And that was based upon, we've gotten a number of citizens who are very concerned about the development in that area and maintaining the buffers. It's also be pointed out that the PUD to the north, yes, they do have large lots. They also have single story adjacent to any of the RMP property as part of that agreement. So I'm not sure that Mr. Celeste would be willing to agree to single story also. Thank you.
Here is attorney Anthony Celeste addressing the commissioners. He's representing home builders and developers. Keep in mind that none of this property is owned by the home builders or developers yet.
We know that there's going to be comments here on the record with 10,000 square feet, and most likely single story would be more appropriate, buffering or adjacent to the RMP.
Commissioner Sisolak.
So you're committing a single story and 10,000 foot lots?
I can't, 10,000 square foot lots, yeah, I mean, essentially if we want to get a design review approved and the conforming zone change, that we better show 10,000 square foot lots and most likely single stories along the RMP.
Single story,
Okay, I understand.
it's good for lots.
I understand.
Okay, yeah, most likely that's what I have
that we're sending a clear message that when you come back, I want single-story and 10,000 square foot lots.
I understand that.
Along that edge.
Okay.
That would be
You
one.
understand
can do
that.
no zone, single story and 10,000.
This team of lawyers pushed through these zoning changes to a confused county commissioner
No,
board.
I'm going to try to clear this up a little bit. One second. Identify, I'm going to try to be the solution instead of the problem. Right here is 320, which everyone's fine with being commercial neighborhood.
Okay.
The parcel
That
on,
made sense to me when I looked at it. Does anyone on the board have any questions, or now that we've said that, anyone in the audience?
Yeah, we should, I think they should have brought the maps with the pink and the green and the yellow colors on there. Are you sure that's the only location?
Just because you asked, Commissioner.
Thank you. I feel much better. I'm much more confident now supporting your motion now.
Okay.
It's clear in this clip that the commissioners are confused in regards to the BLM land.
Why, I don't understand why, I'm still with Commissioner Sisolak, why are we doing BLM land then? How can somebody put BLM land in here?
Just like a neighbor can put their neighbor's property in and make a request.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, but then they hadn't notified. Was BLM notified? Did somebody put them in this?
Yes, every property owner who had a change request received a card notifying them. BLM doesn't really care.
That is
That's what it comes down to.
ridiculous. I'm gonna do that next time, on my neighbor's house and say I want it.
I mean, you know, for example, the whole issue on Decatur, the people in the RMP are making a change request. They don't own the property on Decatur. They're requesting that change. So the same issue. Board and the planning commission, but it didn't come here. So.
Well, snooze and you lose.
These proceedings are quite long, but basically what's going on here is that the commissioners are voting on changes to the land which is owned by the BLM and Clark County Aviation without anyone there from Clark County Aviation or BLM to represent them. Also, the homeowners aren't there.
Did y'all vote down there? Did you vote? Oh, didn't pass.
Madam Chairman, in the interest of transparency, we should not be consenting these. We should hear every one of them.
Yeah, go for it.
Two of the commissioners voted no and asked for transparency, but then a few minutes later, they changed their votes to yeses.
We're voting again. Aren't they cute down there? Motion is per tab. Per the purple-green map. Whatever color it is. Hey, I'm trying to keep this going smoothly. So don't jinx it yet. We're not there yet to the other one that...
Mr. Chestnut is correct. There are 8 homes there. I miscounted on the lots.
Here are some upcoming clips jumping ahead 5 years to 2014 in October. At this meeting, the Bordeaux and their neighbors presented a petition for the second time to have their zoning changed from RL back to its original RNP. In this clip, you'll see Kevin Smedley, who's employed by Clark County as part of the comprehensive planning staff.
198, it's a request to go from residential suburban to RMP on 3 different parcels by 3 different property owners. Staff and Planning Commission recommended denial. Town Board recommended approval. This time I'll open up.
Okay. I'm ready. I apologize. I just know that I've done a lot of work on that and couldn't find it. It's like, oh my gosh.
We're in Enterprise Map 14,
Okay.
change 198.
Right. Okay. And I'm going to make a motion for, I looked at that and I drove that whole area, and I think RL at this time is appropriate on all of 198.
Do we now notify those 3 property owners because they're got changed to something they didn't request? Their original request was to go to RMP. They are part of this process, so they were the ones who made the request to go to RMP, and then the change got... The last stance was that they were designated as residential suburban, which is what they currently were planned.
They wanted RMP, and
I know, but now she approved it at RL. Mm-hmm. So do we notify them,
Yeah,
or do they just...
They will know.
They will know because we
We
notify them,
will
or because we
we'll
give the
let
map
them
to
know.
them?
We have their contact information, we'll let them know.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Well, it's only 10 minutes away.
Thank you. The next request is change 83. It's a request by 3 different property owners to go from residential O to RMP. Staff and Planning Commission recommended denial. Town Board recommended approval.
At this time, I'll open up the public hearing on enterprise map number 14, change number 83 for all 3 parcels. Anyone wishing to address the board? on
Item
enterprise map
83
14, change number
pertains to
83,
the
please step forward,
Bordeaux's
identify
home
yourself, clear
as
your
well
comments,
as their
limited to
2
3 minutes.
neighbors.
Mr. Rouhani.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Riaz Rouhani, 9500 Hillwood. Sorry, came in late.
Riaz
The last item
Rouhani
was
is
mine
a
and was
developer
approved through
that does
RL,
not
correct?
live in this area.
Okay.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I previously said at Town Board and
Are
RMP.
you on 83 now?
Yes, 83.
Okay.
83. I just want to make a general comment about the concerns of the RMP neighbors and about protection and buffering. And I've said this time and time again. I think what has happened in the existing even land use plan of having the surrounding borders of the RMP with the residential low, I think it's the perfect buffer for it. And I think extending the RMP up, it's just going to create a burden for any other developer with the 10,000 square foot lot buffer. So I suggest to leave it as it is, and I think it perfectly buffers that RMP. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to address the board on enterprise map 14, change 83? Seeing and hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Turn it over to Commissioner Brager.
And because they got 2 no's, I do think the RL will protect them, so I will make a motion to accept the RL and that on 83, on all those.
We have a motion on map number
Commissioner
14,
Brager's
change 83, all
motion
3 parcels
to keep
for
the
RL.
land
Is
at
there any discussion
RL
on that motion?
basically denies the
Hearing none, please
Bordeaux
cast your
the
votes.
RNP request that they've made twice to get back to, remembering that this is what they started with,
Motion passes.
RNP.
Thank you. The next change is change 322. It's a request to go from residential suburban and residential low to RMP. This is a request made at the Town Board. Staff is recommending no.
All of these
Planning
zoning
Commission recommending
changes
no.
have allowed the
Town
home
Board recommended it's a
builders
variety of
to
parcels
come
that
in
surround,
and develop high-density
that residential
housing.
low area, essentially.
Currently, America West Homes has applied for permission to develop a high-density housing project right next to Mr. Bordeaux and his neighbors. When the Bordeaux purchased this property on Pyle, it was zoned RNP. They feel it still should be zoned RNP. The bottom line is the Bordeaux and their neighbors all purchased property and lifestyles that they felt was protected due to it being zoned RNP.
is brewing tonight in Southern Highlands. Dozens of people came out to argue against the building of an apartment complex near Cactus and Valley View. 13 Action News reporter David Schumann has more from the piece of land that's causing such strong feelings.
That's the way it should stay. This is a neighborhood and a community.
Almost as soon as the meeting started, the hands shot up with their questions and accusations.
Section 8 will be there, and I don't want any part of it.
Between the neighbors who want their space,
our traffic situation is already tough getting in and out of Southern Highlands,
and the developer trying to build apartments in that space.
Their concern is legitimate today about the traffic.
This is democracy in action.
If they don't get the zone changed, they won't build the project. There is one way to defeat it. That's the next meeting in November.
And it's a process both sides can appreciate.
We all need to come together as a community and stand up for our community. We all love living there, but we don't like the changes that we're seeing.
If we can meet with the neighbors several more times, we can talk about the project design itself, that there is actually a benefit to the neighbors in this area.
There are the traffic headaches, as well as a concern about crime rates.
Who do you think breaks into these houses?
And access to public transportation.
With that influx of people, and if they're going to be living in apartments, and they need means of mass transit, they just don't have it there.
Both sides still have plenty of time to make their cases. This war of words is far from over.
This is the best that you can do in the way of a presentation. I say shame on you.
And that was David Schumann reporting. The town board meets in November, where each side will make their case and a recommendation will be made to the county on whether to allow the apartment project to go through.
Commissioner Weekly.
Thank you.
As a new commissioner, here's Lawrence Weekly addressing his fellow commissioners and basically saying that there needs to be a lot more education and transparency in these proceedings.
Neighborhoods as unique as one like this. In the future, when we prepare for our land use plan updates, if there could be maybe some type of section on our agenda where there's a little education.
Yeah.
Because I just think that one of the things that I've seen with the residents here today is that change bothers a lot of folks. And when
it's the unknown, you're right.
When you buy into a quality of life or something that you're expecting, and all of a sudden change comes along, I mean that's where the controversy comes in. And so I thought the points that you made, Commissioner Brown, were very pertinent and makes a lot of sense for someone who doesn't have any development happening in the district that I represent. It's real educational.
There are unique areas in each of our or some of our districts. You're right, Commissioner. I had this one, not Commissioner Brager. It's an unusual area out there. Commissioner Brager.
And just quickly, completely what Commissioner Brown said is what we've been doing in District F. Is when we look in our RMPs, we've been doing those 10,000 square foots. We've been doing these step down things, and we've had tons of neighborhood meetings. So I've met with these neighbors many times to be able to see what we could do to benefit them. I did that overlay, the RMP overlay and the Frias area and in another area. So we are very attention to detail to them.
Okay.
The Bordeaux and their neighbors feel the developers must adhere and follow the rules. 10,000 square foot lots, single-story homes, as they've stated in the hearings, in Section 30.
The use permit waivers.
I just want the neighbors to know, because then that gives us the opportunity to request something that works with you. So please, all of your information is helpful.
That being said, welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Cindy Brideau, and I live at 4080 West Pile. I'm here to talk about compromising. Not so long ago, when our RMP was larger, and when I say we, I refer to myself and the existing residents, bought land and built our homes there because of what it was, not with the intentions of changing it. And we enjoy the lifestyle that it provides us. With every 5 years that have passed, I've watched my RMP shrink to almost nothing because of requests made to accommodate more condensed housing. Requests that are not made by the residents, but by people and companies for investment purposes with no intentions of living there. I've watched my neighbors lose sleep and take time away from their jobs and families to fight these requests. We don't fight for money. We fight to protect the way we live for what we've worked so hard to achieve by moving there. The plans for this new development are far more invasive than I would have expected. One day I was in an RMP and the next day I'm not. Now I'm being told that 130 homes up to 3 stories tall will be next to me. Not in my speech was, I don't know, something was mentioned about talking with the neighbors about the height. Nothing was told to me. Okay, and I am one of those neighbors. I was told at the TAB meeting it could be 3 stories. When the last master plan took effect, I had no choice but to accept 3.5 houses per acre. And now I'm finding with this PUD that I have to now accept 5 houses per acre, 3 stories tall. This is far more than I can wrap my head around. I don't have the right to deny American West to build, but I do have the right to ask for compromise, something that I don't feel that was given to me fairly. The only thing they have offered me is a tall wall and some trees. This is not a compromise. This is offering me a blindfold before they shoot me. Let me be clear, I do not want 130 homes next door to me. Would you? Would they? Every time a builder comes into our area, we all go into the same song and dance, and I'm tired of it. Instead of this kind of thing being thrown at us, I'd like to see an olive branch that offers something that would better our community. If they must build, I'm asking, along with those higher walls and tall trees, that at least start with single-story homes to be built adjacent to the current residents. And by the way, there's only 3 of us. With this said, I'm sure that I'm not even asking for enough here. I only can see what is on paper, and I don't think that I totally comprehend the impact that this is going to have on my neighborhood, and I'm asking for your help in preserving it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. We appreciate that. Next speaker.
The master plan designation is based on both legal and practical considerations. From a legal standpoint, it should always raise questions when the master plan is changed on private property without the consent of the landowner. And candidly, that's a sword that cuts both ways. I would not want to be living in an RMP and have somebody come in who has property in that RMP and suggest that the whole RMP should be changed because they want to do something greater than what the RMP would allow. So you have to be careful. There's a philosophical kind of feeling to the idea that you could have purchased property with a certain expectation as to a master plan designation, and then have that master plan be changed without your consent.